Okay.
Do we have volume now?
We do.
Thank you to everyone who called and texted in and let us know they couldn't hear us. Can everybody hear us now? As far as I can tell, we're registering.
Yeah.
Got it now. Woohoo! Thank you.
Laura, I saw you calling in. Thank you.
Yes, thank you to everybody who called and let us know. Just a bunch of talking heads right here.
Yeah.
No sound.
I almost feel like let's do a do-over.
Let's do a do-over. Let's start from scratch. Okay, we're gonna start from scratch. We're gonna scrap this whole area and start again.
Yeah. Hold on. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it from the top. Or like O'Reilly said, F it, we'll do it live.
There you go.
Okay. Dad, why didn't you come up here and tell us?
Well, he's not, really much on running anywhere.
Yeah. This is okay. Quit that. Jump up. Michelle, if you want, you can go ahead and join again. It was probably all us then.
Or at least try to join.
If you want. If not, it's cool.
We can always try and do it next week. Oof.
Okay. What a mess. That's okay. That's how these things roll sometimes.
This podcast contains adult themes and language. The views expressed here are our own opinions and experiences. We are not medical professionals.
In this podcast, we discuss our opinions about mental health, sobriety, addiction, and our pursuit of happiness and peace. This is Sober Mind.
There.
Okay.
Oh, Michelle says next week is fine.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
good.
Cool.
Okay.
Next week.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Saturday.
Take two.
Yeah. Anyway, as I was saying, holy crap, I had tested all this out. And, all right. Hey, Mom. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Dad. He's on the chat.
Hey, everyone else. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah. Hey,
Sorry
everyone
for the
else.
snafu.
It's okay. It happens. As we were saying, so I have a huge audio setup. Brian Freimiller's seen it. It's pretty interesting. But what happened is I got a firmware update. This drives me nuts. I'm sure you guys have all experienced this. Got a firmware update and settings changed. I got to make sure that we figure out a better way to test that in the future. Okay, so fast forward. Let's get some music going on. I'm going to check it out. Regaining my composure.
Take deep breaths.
Got some stream beats by Harris Heller. See, this is when Patrick's on, it really keeps us on track.
This is a good test, though.
Yeah.
It's a good test.
Anyway, Patrick is on vacation. Michelle was going to join, but there was some technical issues, so we'll get her next week. Okay. So, real quick medication update. So, babe, keep me on track here. I'm going to summarize this in 2 minutes. Saw the psychiatrist starting a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to the various trials that I did with different medications. I ended up being on Effexor and Wellbutrin, which is a good combination. It helped me a lot in the beginning with panic attacks and anxiety and depression.
Yes.
Panic disorder, if you will. But then a few months later, I don't know when it was, I found myself having depressive episodes, really bad ones, dark, dismal shit. And when you articulate this stuff to the psychiatrist, it's tough for them to, well, okay, I don't know if it's tough for them or not, but whatever you're saying to them about the medication that you're on, that's sort of what they're going to, either they're going to hold it or they're going to make adjustments. whatever you're saying at the time is sort of what they have to go off of. That's where it gets convoluted. If you go into a call one day and you're like, I'm super depressed, and they're like, well, how long has it been happening? You say 2 weeks, and mine would make an adjustment, and it's really tough on the head to go through all of that stuff. But then I got put on a mood stabilizer, Depakote. So now
3 medications.
3 medications for something that I think is pretty manageable, or should be, with probably some cognitive behavioral therapy, which I was getting from my therapist as well. But I got depressive episodes while I was on the Effexor again and again. So
Yeah.
I talked to the psychiatrist, and I wanted to go ahead and wean off of that. And so she lowered the dosage from 150 milligrams to 75, and we decided to taper. But I heard horror stories about tapering off the medication, so I just quit cold turkey. I do not recommend that for anybody. It's really difficult to do.
You want me to go check?
Yeah, go check
Okay.
on the dogs. Please, babe.
Sorry.
So anyway, I quit cold turkey, and here we are. Ozzy, get out of here, man. So I quit the Effexor, I quit the Depakote. That whole month was a pretty rough ride, and about a week ago, I decided to quit the Wellbutrin. So quitting the Wellbutrin was interesting because the side effect from quitting that gave me probably the first 1 and 2 days, I felt pretty good. And then it spiraled down pretty quickly into a depressive episode. But I think with some time, I've crawled back out of it, and I think I'm doing pretty good. So I'm starting to feel a lot of emotion. That's...
Oh, thank you. I think you're doing really good.
Thank you. So are you.
Thank you.
Anyway, so Judy's week has been pretty tough too. She says she feels like she's been wearing an itchy sweater this whole time because she quit 2 of her medications, the 2 of 2. So
Cymbalta, and then there was one I was taking. It was not an SSRI or an SRI or whatever. It was basically for migraines and for night sweats because, the whole time of life changed for me. But some of the side effects of that one was having to deal with cognitive issues as far as delay and not being able to focus properly. And that was just a side effect of the medication. But I've been doing that so long in my life when I was smoking pot that I just didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to be alert and available and ready to, take on life and not be dumbed down by a medication or by a drug or by alcohol or anything like that. I, went through this whole getting sober thing to avoid that, and then all of a sudden putting back on medication and experiencing that again was just not something I wanted to do. So I went off of that. I can deal with the night sweats; they're fine. The only issue is that I also suffer from nightmares and I dream heavily, and that medication helped with the nightmares and the dreaming. And so when I went off of that, that dreams and the nightmares started coming back. So I'm having to deal with that, which is another anxiety-inducing occurrence that's happening along with the withdrawals from Cymbalta. So it's been an exciting week, and it's been a learning experience. It's been one of those things that you just kind of pull up your big girl panties and power through.
yeah.
I have been doing a lot of meditation. I have been doing a lot of trying to do the box breathing, the 4-count breath in, the 4-count hold, the 4-count breath out, and the 4-count hold, and to try and lower the anxiety, focus the brain, calm the body. And that does help. I have lavender oil in my coffee to help calm me down. I have other natural and homeopathic things that I have been doing that has really, really helped to deal and combat with the issues that are now coming up, because I'm not dumbing them down and dulling them with pot or alcohol or any other medications that, other stuff that had come up in my life that I'm now having to face head on.
I'm at a loss for words. It's just been, thank you so much for your patience. And I know I've apologized several times.
Thank you for yours.
This whole show is feeling pretty wonky because we started off pretty rocky, and I don't know. I'm just not feeling it today, and that's okay.
That's totally fine.
What
It's
life
totally
is about.
Fine.
What I found myself getting, okay, like yesterday when you came home and the dog stepped on your heel and you shouted, and it set me off, and then I had to catch myself and realize that, dang, from a relationship perspective, it's a lot to go through to have a couple quitting medication like that. Maybe we should have planned that out a little bit differently. Like, hey, I'll go
staggered it a little bit.
I'll go first, or you go first, and then we'll figure it out later on. It just takes so much time. But I feel mentally a lot healthier. I feel like I'm really going down a good path. I've been sleeping very well.
I can actually feel that's the one thing for me, and I'm sure for you, is that we can actually experience emotions now instead of just. I mean, yeah, when I was taking the medications, I couldn't feel the anxiety or the depression or anything like that, but I couldn't feel anything else either. So I couldn't get that sense of elation and deep joy and love and happiness and all that. I could get close to it, but it just seemed fake. It didn't seem the genuine article that I really wanted or that I was used to.
Yeah. Like I was trying to articulate to Dad last week that it's been interesting having emotion and being happy at times. It's getting much better. I got to give myself a lot of grace here to get through this latest round of withdrawals.
And you have to be kind to yourself.
I know. It's easier said than done, though.
Yes, very.
Good Lord.
Very.
I'll get back into that subject here in a sec, the being kind to yourself. But I lost my train of thought. This is going to be me for the rest of the show, just sporadic and all over the place. But see, being kind to yourself, that's here, I'll sum it up in depression in a nutshell.
Oh, good luck.
The best thing I watched a TED Talk from a lady, and she did a really good job of articulating this, and that is depression is exacerbated by a conscious and or subconscious. Thank you, Laura. We're doing great, she said.
Oh, good.
I needed that push. Depression is exacerbated by a conscious or subconscious lack of power.
Mm-hmm.
And that really resonated with me when I heard that yesterday, because I've been going through a life event for the last 60 days, and I don't have any control over it. Yeah. And no matter how much I sit there and try to tell myself that, hey, it's okay, come whatever may, and it's gonna end up on a good side no matter what happens. Our subconscious selves or our weak and feeble brains tend to have their own little pathway of sabotaging us.
Yes. Even though we think, okay, well, I'm thinking the right things and I'm trying to guide myself in the right direction, subconsciously it's still that underlining itchy wool sweater that is there that we just cannot take off.
Yeah. that's a good description of it. And you know, depression, man, I'm so exhausted too about
Battling mental health.
Yeah, here's the irony. We have a mental health channel. But this is good. It's good to talk about this. It just gets tiring. You know, when you wake up some days and you're like, man, I wonder who I'm going to get today. I don't want to be overtly giddy and joyful, or I just want to be normal and happy.
Yeah.
Whatever normal is. So
sometimes it's very much a conscious effort to be normal and happy, quote unquote.
Yeah. Depression is your own mind kicking your ass.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It
I
is.
can believe that.
Having sorrow and melancholy and darkness coupled with you berating yourself.
Yeah.
Is what's difficult to endure.
Yeah, and not being able to get a hold of it, not being able to manage it, to either deal with it or to let those things go, and not being able to not allow it to eat at you 24/7 all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is how our week has gone. But you know what? I think for the most part, I think it was a good test on our sobriety. I think it was a good test on how we're managing now instead of how we used to manage. Michelle says that changed behavior is a full-time job, and that is very true. Very true. I find that the more that I'm having to deal with all these mental issues, the more it's constantly there all the time. The more aware I am of where my brain is, how I feel, how am I doing today, how's it going, what are my external stressors, how am I responding to it. It's more of a conscious thing instead of a react thing. Instead of just reacting to things is how I used to do, is just to, either just allow my emotions to control my reaction to whatever kind of external stimuli that was stressing me at the time.
Yeah. We talked about that a little bit during the glass frog episode. Sorry, I try not to get frustrated about this, but Michelle, I get it. It's a full-time job, but Jesus Christ, man.
It's a lot.
It is. Sometimes, the journey of sobriety continues to surprise and shock me. It's not, Judy said it was a good test this week. It's not like I would ever go back to drinking. That's something I can't even possibly fathom. I think I'm a mess now. I just might as well fucking lock me up if I drank, because my brain would not respond well to it now. It's not a fear of mine, but
and the guilt that would come afterwards.
Oh,
good grief.
I can't even possibly imagine it. But where I'm going, I hate to sound all doom and gloom about it, but man, it gets, when I wasn't sober, it seemed like, well, I don't want to say it. Dealing with mental health was a facade because I was drunk the majority of the time, or buzzed in some form of
we just
fashion.
Weren't dealing with it.
No, and then when I got back from my run this morning, I was thinking about how I used to deal with a lot of this stuff, and it was, well, I'm a little anxious and I'm a little depressed right now, but it didn't matter because, well, it's 10:30 on a Saturday. I'd probably be drinking a couple beers by now anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I would have been high.
Oh yeah. So then we're just into a different state of consciousness to where you're not having to deal with it. And I felt happy and good, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it was all great until you got sober, till you started to sober up, and then, well, you had to either grab a beer or grab a bong hit or something to numb it back again.
Yeah. Okay. Let's. Judy has a hard stop because she's going to do hot yoga.
I am. But it's not until
In a half an
11:30,
hour,
so
yeah.
we're good.
So real quick before we get into the Patrick Teahan stuff, let's talk about the Glass Frog episode that we watched last week. That resonated very well.
Yeah, that was pretty. Yeah, that was pretty nail on the head for me.
Yeah. We started talking about how we create our own perceptions of how people are viewing us before we go into a situation or when we're in a situation.
Yeah, you walk into a room and you think everybody knows exactly everything, kind of personal thing that goes on in my life. Everybody can see it. So you're spotlight.
And then I started talking about my preconceived notion of this meeting that we were going to have with our friends.
Yeah.
To go have coffee.
You already written the book.
And I already had written the book, and I was getting anxious about that encounter. But then, just like it always is, so it's just this buildup of bullshit that I'm fabricating in my head. And I'm not trying to. It's just this. No, it takes a ton of work. I'm getting really well at it. I've been using, some meditation therapy and stuff, and I'm using an app called Calm. Not sponsored. Really, really good stuff.
Yes.
Just to help me be mindful about things. Again, it takes work, to your point, Michelle, but we showed up to the encounter.
Yeah, it went great.
And it was fine.
We sat and chatted and had coffee. It was great.
Just like it always is. And during that meeting, we were talking to one of our friends, and we were discussing about how I thought this encounter was going to be, and he was like, "Oh man, I've been anxious and I've had panic attacks and all these other things." And this is from a person that we know
we would have never guessed. I mean, he was so, as far as we knew, he was just so mellow and laid back. This is our perception that anything could roll through, and he'd be just fine and take it with a grain of salt and move on. And that's what we thought he was like, and never knew that he had suffered through some of the things that we had suffered through. And
he is like that, but
yeah.
we were very surprised and humbled by the fact that he shared with us that he had experienced the same thing that I experienced after I got sober, with the bad panic.
Mm-hmm.
Disorder, not just one attack. So, and then while we were sitting outside drinking coffee, I kept smelling Mexican food, and it was making me hungry. So we found the place maybe where it was coming from, and we went in there, and we were waiting for the food to get made because we were doing takeaway. And we had a realization that we were sitting there drinking a Diet Coke, sharing one, and eating chips and salsa, and realized that was probably the first time in almost 2 years.
Yeah, that we'd ever been in a restaurant like that, having chips and salsa and drinking a Diet Coke and not having a big tall beer or michelada or whatever. Okay, 3 or 4.
Yeah. I caught myself. My brain had looked at the cooler and saw the Dos Equis Amber and the Coronas back there. And I was like, oh man, I bet that's super refreshing. Not having a conscious
not
interaction with it. It's just like habit, 30 years of hard drinking. That's just what's going to happen. Mexican restaurants for us, that's just synonymous. That's what you do. We'd go there. We'd have, not at that particular one, but we used to go to one of our old joints right up the road, and we would have 3 or 4 of the big old 32-ounce drinks, beers.
Yeah, I would start off with a michelada and then move on to a beer, and it was just one of those things that we did. And yeah, this was the first time that we ever went to a Mexican restaurant and had chips and salsa and did not have a beer or anything. But I mean that that thought that kind of slightly jumps in of, oh man, I think that would look refreshing, or that, it's immediately washed right out. It's there and then it's gone.
Yeah.
It's not something that lingers. It's just one of those things. It's like an ex-smoker who looks at somebody who's smoking a cigarette and thought, oh yeah, that looks good, and then it's immediately gone, which is good. Thank goodness.
Yeah. But it was pretty surreal when we kind of caught ourselves and we're like, oh man, we haven't done this in a long time. And here we are. And everything's working itself out.
And it felt okay. It felt good. It really did. It felt, for me, it felt really good. It felt like an achievement. It felt like, it felt good. I was happy.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
So that was part of our real world glass frog episode. Let's go ahead and continue on. So as a reminder, I think we're getting pretty close. Right? Yeah, we're on number 10 of Patrick Teahan, LICSW. Is a licensed independent child social worker. He's got a fantastic channel. Highly recommend you check it out. Patrick Teahan, Teahan. And we somehow came across the 11 oddly specific childhood trauma issues. Oh, I was wondering why I kept switching channels. Ozzy's down here on the remote, laying on the remote pedal, going to different views. Man, what a disaster today. But you know what? I'm having fun with it. It's fine. So if your scenes have been changed, just going to dark there, it's because our dog was laying on the pedal here that controls the scenes. Anyway, Patrick Teahan. So since we're on number 10, I'll give a recap real quick. We went through emotional delay, rushing nowhere, refrigerator buzz depression, being tired is a trigger, chameleon but don't mix, on the spot dissociation, laughing about the pain, crying valve, and glass frog. Today we're gonna go real quick watch number 10, which is sideways grief or rage. I'm curious to see what this one is about.
Yeah.
So let me get this music paused here real quick. I'm going to go to the browser session. Oh my God, it's actually working. So
yay!
Nothing got broke there. Let me see if there's volume.
What I call sideways grief.
Yeah, okay, it's working. Heads up, guys. When I get done with this series, I'm going to go through my my audio configuration and just start punching stuff. It's not going to be pretty.
I'll leave the room.
Okay, here we go.
Problems, because there's so much. That's really the root to this glass frog issue. Number 10, we're almost close to the end here. What I call sideways grief or rage. You're probably familiar with this one. Emotional, kind of sappy commercials that come up, seeing kids get what they need in their own childhood, like when you're out and about, seeing happy couples. You may have some grief or big chunks of sadness that kind of comes out sideways. Or rage, where you lose it over small things because you're struggling with much bigger things that you're maybe not in tune with. These are like the low threat. We didn't realize how low threshold we were until like we couldn't open the piece of mail or something like that. When we are repressing trauma or we're putting issues down, stuff comes out sideways. I'm a visual person. So when you're repressing how bad your parents' marriage was and how bad your childhood was, comes out sideways when you maybe see a healthy couple and you might just start sobbing and not being able to relate the two things. Where it comes from in childhood. Really, my mentor, Amanda Curtin, talks about this reserve well, a literal well in us of pain, grief, all the situations that are still unprocessed that happen to us. It's really like what we're struggling with this well. And it pops up, it comes out sideways when we get triggered. Could also come from really the unfairness of that step parent that's never been addressed, that your other parent never protected you from. Rage can come out sideways from that kind of a thing when you see people kind of getting the shaft or not being protected. The offness of being a parentified child. You're at work and the rage might come out sideways if someone asked you to bring something to a Yankee swap or something like that. That's where this stuff comes from. The pain of not being in a sane and connecting, loving family. That's where those sappy commercials about grandma, they pick grandma up and they in a snowstorm because they want to have Thanksgiving with her, and everyone's like, oh my God. So triggering, because we never saw that kind of the caring in our own family systems. And as a side note, the sideways stuff is, if you struggle with remembering the issues around your childhood, this is where that phrase, your body remembers. Your body remembers in the way that things come out sideways. So it's really important to pay attention to them. Like, those are your clues. Some treatment ideas is finding safe people to start processing, not just talking about what happened, but processing in it with a therapist or with a group. If you can get one, if you can find one, I know that that's loaded. Start making some notes in your phone about when it comes up, when things start to come out sideways and why. Like when you saw pets not being cared for, like when you're seeing a family being supportive of each other and they're like doing that seamlessly. Another example is like when you can't handle minor frustrations, like trying to find a parking spot and you just can't, and it's like you have a rage meltdown kind of a thing. Tells you have some other stuff kind of going on and it's coming out sideways in that moment. Another treatment idea is dialoguing and journaling can be really helpful to be more in touch with what you have going on in the present, and look at that as a bump, say, with your partner, as opposed to having these sideways reactions and you're like, where did that come from? To try to really know what is going on with you in real time before things blow up sideways, if you can. And it's not just that last bit, it's really that well of grief and pain that I mentioned, as well as not being connected with what's going on in our present lives. And last one.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a very apropos right now.
Yeah. Especially dealing with a lot of the stuff that we haven't dealt with from our childhood. We just kind of suppressed with alcohol and drugs. And now it's all, kind of coming back. For me, it is. And it's definitely, I have these sideways explosions that happen. Like yesterday when he almost tripped me on the stairs with my hands full of groceries and I exploded. That was definitely a sideways explosion.
And then when you explode, I have a sideways explosion about your explosion.
Yeah, it's like a trigger.
Lately, we're usually not like that, but man, I've had a short fuse, and I know, being kind to yourself, I get it. I try to give myself a little bit of patience and room to navigate this shit, but coming off all these medications has been a huge trial. And then when it's a huge snowball too when it happens. Like there's a reaction and you catch yourself, you're like, okay, calm down, this is okay. But no matter how hard I'm trying at the time, then I'm met with a disappointment of how I reacted.
Yeah, you have the guilt of exploding.
Yeah. And then, seeing, having someone walk by and they're not treating their dog the way that,
oh my God, yeah,
that you would, or I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so my nightmare last night was a perfect example of.
Tell the people your nightmare.
Okay.
Edit it though.
I won't edit it because I dream very vividly. And so I could, go on in full book, but okay. So it's very weird. I dream very odd things. And this one it was Christmas time and I was giving out, puppies and kittens to people as, little stocking stuffers and Christmas gifts from Humane Society, and which is something I probably would do, but I haven't. And I gave, a puppy to my Aunt Kathy, sweet lady, very nice lady. And I came back to visit her and the puppy, and she had skinned it and disemboweled it and had it prepped for dinner. So yeah, it was very traumatic. And I walked into the next room and just sobbed. This is something my Aunt Kathy would never do. She's had pets of her own, so this is not, I'm not sure where that came from.
She totally would.
She would not. I mean, she's had, dogs of her own, and she's a very caring person, and she is a good cook, but she'd never do that.
We don't know. We could have ate kangaroo.
Yeah. Well, continue. Yeah. The next one was she pulled out a huge kangaroo that she had prepped for dinner as well out of a big freezer. But so the instant trauma from that, I think, brought up other stuff in my dream that I had been suppressing that came out, the sideways explosion as well, the sideways grief that came out as well. I mean, it was a very traumatic dream, and I woke up feeling like I was still in the dream itself, which I do a lot because I dream vivid. But yeah, it was not something I ever want to experience again, and I'm not quite sure where it came from, but the grief that came from it was pretty intense.
Yeah. And then having those sort of nightmares, you guys know, they're powerful sometimes, and it just sticks with you through the day like it was a real thing, and it's hard to shake those things off.
Yeah, it's very hard to shake those type of things up. And if you're going through any trauma and having those type of nightmares, I think just exacerbates what you're going through in your daily life. They say that sometimes it can reflect what is going on in your subconscious. If that is a reflection of what's going on in my subconscious, wow. But at least it's not a little miniature bear with high heels. So, we're good there.
Different dream.
Yes. Another different dream was my tomato plants were having a race and they were running on their roots. It's it's a circus going on in my head.
You're getting through it, babe. You're doing a really good job.
Thank you.
Okay, Michelle says, I thought it was not having patience for the little things.
Yeah.
This made me think about it differently. Maybe it is sideways rage. Yeah, Michelle, I've caught myself a lot lately too. I think it's lack of control and lack of power that gets me pointed down this way sometimes. But it's like Dad will do something, and it's nothing egregious at all, but I'll have the sideways, I don't want to call it rage, but like weird expectation, and it's completely unfair or you'll do something, and it's like
it's that instant snap.
Yeah. Inside. But yeah, something I got to look at. That's why I'm a huge fan of this series. It always gives me something to ponder, and this is good therapy to have. But I know that I've got unresolved issues still for things, and the longer I work on my mental health, and the more time I spend in the sobriety journey, the more these things pop out, and I realize that, man, I get caught with a lot of pleasantries, and I get caught with a lot of disappointment. So, but I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of you for putting in.
You've done a great job.
Thank you.
I mean, when we were still in our drinking and all of that, and you would have the episodes of rage or episodes of exploding, you just kind of let it go, and it was manifested more externally. Now I think you're dealing with it as far as taking deep breaths and talking about it calmly, and then releasing it and letting it go, instead of holding on to it and bringing it up 2 or 3 days later with the same amount of emotion behind it.
Yeah. I don't like the picture that was just painted of me, but it's a realistic picture. I want to be careful with the rage word with me. I would, just like a lot of folks, I'd probably get angry at stuff and internalize and then overreact to things, but I was never rageful, was I?
No. You were angry, but yeah. we both were angry at certain points. We've been together for a long time, so over 20 years. So there was definitely times of anger and frustration, not understanding why you didn't act or react the way I expected you to act or react.
Yes.
Was a frustration. And then I realized that I can't put expectations on you because that's just ridiculous. That's just silly.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah. This is a good one for I can definitely see how this has affected my life in the initial reactions, the initial rage, the initial watching a commercial on TV and bawling my eyes out and not realizing why I was so emotional towards that specific commercial, because it had nothing to do with me, but that well of emotion that we have in our lives. And we're just, the stuff that I had stuffed down into that well starting to come up. I think I'm dealing with the rages, the slight, the sideways rages better than I used to. The crying I'm still kind of working on, because I'm an emotional mess most of the time, but that's hormonal too. So
Yeah, I don't think your mom says there is one instance of rage I remember. All right, well, Mom, we'll talk about it later. I don't think you're a mess, babe. I think we're just raw, if you will, and sort of
yeah,
unbandaged emotion right now.
yeah, we've definitely had the Band-Aid ripped off, and it took a little skin.
But we're doing the work.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle says she's extremely proud of us for being so vulnerable and honest. Yeah, I've been vulnerable and honest lately. It's kind of, I think it's also coming with age. It's like, I don't know, where I don't have the energy or the wherewithal to put up a fake facade anymore about anything.
Yeah.
And then just living. Sorry, your mom's
Yeah. So we'll tackle that issue later.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let's I think we're gonna wrap it up so you can get to over to hot yoga. And then I think for the rest of the day,
We're going to be gaming.
Yeah.
Relaxing.
just gonna chill. We're gonna play Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Michelle, we played that several years ago when you were here, and we just recently revisited it. Excellent game. And then next weekend we're gonna have Michelle on. She's gonna join a little bit early, and we're going to make sure we have our technology issues all sorted out. And we're gonna finish the last one. Waiting games. I don't know what that is. I'll do X after Y takes place.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the
that's a good one.
that should be pretty interesting. Then that's gonna wrap up the 11 oddly specific childhood trauma issues from Patrick Teahan. Then we will figure out what the agenda is after that.
I think by that time, Patrick will be back.
Patrick will be back after next weekend, and then we're gonna lock in the dates. But we got our very good friend Laura, who's going to be joining us to start talking about some
Laura and Brian.
Sorry, Brian, you're never second fiddle. But let's be honest, when we're having a discussion about stuff, Laura's gonna be the cream of the crop. I'm just kidding. I'm super excited about this to get her and Brian and me, you, Michelle, and Patrick together and start to discuss sociology behind a lot of society, if you will.
Yeah.
And our views and thoughts on a lot of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it's going to be a good conversation.
It's going to be an awesome conversation. And I imagine it's going to take a few series to get through some things. So
Yes, we're gonna jump on that and devour it. I think I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. All right, y'all.
Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate all of your support, and thanks for putting up with our technical issues today.
Yeah. Hey, it happens when you're live. That's why it's live. Baby, you want to run through the 988 and Al-Anon bugs?
Oh, if you or anybody you know who is having ideations or suicidal thoughts, please call the hotline 988 and get some help, reach out, please. It'll literally save your life. If you or anybody you know are thinking about sobering up or need any help, any guidance or anything, try Al-Anon. It's a great organization. They have Zoom meetings that you can join. Definitely reach out and talk to someone. It can help you tremendously.
Yeah, I've been on some forums lately just reading about folks that are dealing with wanting to get sober and wanting to know how to even start the process, or
Yeah.
having I was on one particular one where this person had a spouse that was not joining her in her sobriety, and I immediately posted in there, go check out Al-Anon.
Yeah.
I think Michelle, who's a big fan, would agree that it's wildly underrated. When you're getting into this stuff, it seems super
Yes.
overwhelming, and you don't know where to start. There's this organization, Al-Anon, go check it out. Super non-judgmental. They can point you in a direction that could give you some sort of help or guidance or just a push.
And it doesn't have to be you specifically suffering from it. You could have a loved one or a friend or, a close person to you that is wanting to get sober or looking for help, or you're looking for some way to support them. Check out Al-Anon.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, my love. This has been,
Thank you, dear.
It's been a rough week. I really almost kind of didn't want to do the show this week, but we always promised that we would. It's a mental health show.
The show's kind of a representation of how our week has been, so it's been great. It's good.
It's all good.
It's all good.
I'm gonna go eat. I'm gonna have some water. I'm gonna be kind to myself.
I'm gonna go do yoga and then come back and eat and then sit down and
play some Assassin's Creed.
There you go. Yep.
I'm gonna fix all this audio. I'm gonna not get any more beta updates for the firmware on my stuff. Sorry about that. No big deal. Okay.
Okay.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye.